Hi, my name is Sabrina Gonzalez, and I am doing my persuasive speech. So imagine you are in a small cage, and you've been there for years, possibly your whole life. Just a small one room. Let's picture one room, and we're fed. Let's picture that we're fed by somebody who has you on a strict diet. You can't eat what you want, and you're on a time schedule. You get fed maybe twice a day if you're lucky. And picture that you are alone with no freedom, nowhere. You can't leave the room. People will come clean up after you, and that's it. You're just confined to this room your whole life. Well, that's how animals are kept in zoos for years, or the longevity of their life, usually until they die. There was an article called Protecting the Animals, and there was a quote in there that said, "Being kind to animals is not enough. Avoiding cruelty is not enough. The truth of animal rights requires empty cages, not larger cages." And this is in regards to the zoos that even here in Fresno we have. All across the United States we have, all across the world there are many zoos with wild animals that are held captive in enclosures that are not nearly as big enough as what they need. Animals need space. They need places to roam. Nobody likes to feel claustrophobic. It can cause stress, it can cause anxiety. Zoo enclosures are typically 100 times smaller than their normal homes out in the wild. While many people are not as big as like an elephant or a giraffe, these exhibits are open, usually they say so the animal doesn't go extinct, and it's better to have them in a cage than in a museum. Being confined to a small area can cause fights between exhibit mates. It can cause pacing back and forth, over grooming, and it makes an animal feel crazy. It's actually a condition, a mental illness that animals do get, called zoochosis. And basically, zoochosis is a psychological condition that causes animals to behave abnormally, usually affecting animals who are held in captivity in a long time. It raises the question on if zoos are actually helpful or if it's, more for a profit, because a lot of families and people do like to see these animals and pay a lot of money to go see these animals, and zoos do make a profit off of this. There was a study in the Applied Animal Behavioral Science. It was a study that 257 captive giraffes, it was found that 80% of these animals showed some form of zoochosis. And the signs and symptoms of zoochosis could be pacing back and forth. If you ever see like it's usually like the big cats, the jaguars, they pace back and forth in front of their exhibit. It could be a sign of zoochosis. It's not always hunting behavior. While it could be, it's not always the case. Signs of over-grooming, self-mutilization can happen as well, and also eating and throwing up their food and then eating it again is another. There's subtle signs of zoochosis. Zoochosis could also be caused by neglect. Not every zookeeper is qualified for the position. They do a background check and see if they have the required prereqs to get and actually work with these type of animals. However, not all people are qualified to be a zookeeper. There were at least 1,700 recorded incidents of animal injuries in zoos and deaths in the zoos due to animal cruelty. Neglect can be it's also from neglect. Neglect can be in the form of not feeding. Sorry, I have to do this with my kids. Neglect can be in the form of not feeding the correct amounts of food needed, whether it's to save money or just out of the keeper's just will. Some animals can go days without being fed, or even not cleaning the enclosure properly can cause the animals to get sick. A lot of animals can die from that. There was also a quote in a juvenile report of 2015, about 8 years ago, and it said over the past decade, more than 80 animals have died, been injured, or become ill because of neglect at these zoos. More than 200 others were kept in inhumane conditions, according to hundreds of pages of federal inspection reports. So while these zoos are fun for families to enjoy together as quality time, I think it's very important to look at the bigger picture of not just us selfishly, but look at the animals behind the cage and really, decide if zoos are helpful or not. It'll always be a debate. It'll be up to the people, the families, the customers to look beyond just the animal that they're looking at, but really wonder if it is right to have these animals behind cages. Thank you.